Hey YouTube, how you doing? Back here with another opinion about the Derek Chauvin trial. A lot of opinions here. First and foremost, his attorney, his counsel, he's got a hell of a job. Now, don't get me wrong. No, there is no get me wrong. He's doing a hell of a job. His job is to defend Derek Chauvin, and he's doing exactly that. So, hats off to his attorney. And saying that this trial is about Derek Chauvin, and in my opinion, the problem is with the trial being about Derek Chauvin, it has also put the other individuals as well as the institution on trial. That is one of the reasons I feel and say some of the things that I say, is because this trial is literally showing the disconnect of not only the individuals that work in the institution, but also the disconnect the institution has from the other institutions. I apologize. But yes, it's disconnect from the individuals in the institution, as well as its disconnect from the other institutions amongst the institutions that are supposed to assist in the working mechanism. Basically, what that means is the network of first responders, it is just one piece in that puzzle. And there is a system designed for it to flow easily. And what the Derek Chauvin case has really shown me is the disconnect at the different levels. But what makes it personal, which is also the same thing that makes me stress that these are my opinions, is the thoughts that I produce when it talks about his character. And that is actually what is on trial here. The man Derek Chauvin and what engulfs him. What we see is a Caucasian or white male. And that's where it starts. But there's so much more, because this individual decided to become a Minnesota police officer. In today's trial, or we'll call it trial episode. I don't know why I choose to use those words, but that's what we'll call it. What it showed again was the different levels of policing, from federal all the way down to the municipal, and how they're all connected, but how an individual as well as group of individuals and how the new police officers become disconnected to this. This, unfortunately for the institution of policing, this trial has shown how there's a disconnect at every level. There's things that I'm seeing that, by just calling them out on this video, it will allow for things to be recognized. And that's not the point of this. But when I watched Derek Chauvin's trial today, I saw there were some physical cues and just things that I watch for to see what type of people that are around me. And some of those things I saw, and it was just, whoa. Um, that literally, I was like, whoa. It, again, Derek Chauvin's attorney, his counsel, you, he has an amazing, the amount of information that he has to process and work with. Hats off to that defense team. Um, First and foremost, I do I give them. I say what I say because they're definitely earning it. Do I think that Derek Chauvin is guilty? Very much. I think that individual, he definitely, again, it goes to the level of lives he changed, and we're not just talking about George Floyd's. Um, there were two rookie officers, or whatever their short amount of time was with the Minneapolis Department. He changed their lives. Um, Regardless of what my opinion or whatever is of Officer Tao, uh, he changed his life for the negative. That was immediately relevant. His life played out in the media. Um, so those are the immediate lives. George Floyd, of course. All of the bystanders' lives that were there to witness that, regardless of whatever, how much time they were there, all of those individuals' lives have changed. Um, the store, the relatives, um, the lives that have been altered by Derek Chauvin's actions is that just the thought of that is just, well, it's made me speechless. So um, today in the Chauvin case, there were different officers and people involved with the police department from multiple agencies across the country. And, well, there was one. And then there were the ones that were directly involved with the Minneapolis agency. Um, and they spoke on, well, essentially they spoke on how things are supposed to be accomplished and what processes are supposed to be used in evaluating each and every situation. Um, One thing I will say is I think that the defense attorney, he was trying to make it out so that people understood the complexity of an officer that is dealing with a hostile crowd, as well as an individual that is going through a traumatic situation, and how traumatic that can be on each individual officer as well as the groups of officers as a whole. And that I the complexities of that situation, I understand. I get that. But again, it falls back on professionalism. You get licensed to do that job because you're stating you have the capacity to be professional in those situations. And on so many different levels, Derek Chauvin did not articulate or act in a professional way. And that's really what makes the charges of this that he's charged with relevant. What one of the things that make this such an ugly case at this point is today, as I was hearing the different police officers discuss tactics and how they're deployed and these different levels of and capacity to rationally think through a set of events that are supposed to be used to problem solve. As I saw them breaking those down, as I saw those breaking them down, it made me realize and think about the different things that I've seen with my own eyes through the years on YouTube, through as well as stories that I've heard. Believe this is definitely not new. There's a group of people that have got their own version of the George Floyd story. And unfortunately, if this is not handled in a correct manner, we're going to have more George Floyds in the future. You know, different names, different faces. I mean, I'm not going to get off into the other names that should be honored, that should be talked about, that should be said. And right now, those names not being said do not mean they shouldn't be honored with the same level. So the names that I've left out that you have thought of, please, if you can, please say them yourself so that they can be uttered. Every name lost should be uttered and celebrated. Back to this George Floyd situation, though. Derek Chauvin, with this trial, and as it shows us the different tactics and how they're employed or deployed, or I'm not sure the exact word I should be using, but how they're supposed to be used. The processes, there's points where I actually saw Derek Chauvin partially connect to some of these issues, but what I saw was a person trying to connect to something in a way because he knew he had lost control. When an individual loses control, the thing about that specific thing is losing control can be like an addiction or a drug. And it can excite us, it can scare us, it can do a lot of different things. In the case of Derek Chauvin, it showed us a side of him that in these videos that none of us hope to show anybody, and it's the side of us that most excites us in our darkest moments. You know, one of the things that makes this such a hard thing to stomach, and for those of you that look at just the things that make you feel better, just imagine this. Your child can be a victim too. And if you don't have children, Imagine the person you care about most. Imagine them having a story like this, or even remotely like this, because this is the world they live in and you live in now. You think it can't happen to you. Well, this is the part where I tell you that it can happen to anybody. There was a time when certain types of people had nothing to fear, but hate to tell you, my friend, it's not today. With that being said, there's tactics put in place to protect the police from their innermost demons. These tactics are put in place so that, one, the officer can get home, but two, the officer can also protect himself in the case of a lawsuit. What Derek Chauvin did was, through his actions, he was able to disconnect from emotions and other things that make him able to even say he's human. When you look into the images or the video, the parts of the video where he's looking at whoever he's looking at, thinking whatever he's thinking, most people see a expressionless man, a cold individual, a man with no remorse. And those are partial descriptions of what you can say about him. What I see when I see Derek Chauvin, when he looks into that video, is I see him trying to gather information. I see him trying to understand his surroundings. I see him evaluating. I see there's a lot of evaluation going on. But the part that really caught my attention was when he was doing all that evaluating, the moment he decided to reconcentrate on George Floyd and what he was doing, he went back to the moment that he just left with that. He completely refocused on George Floyd, and he became so focused that he lost the control and the capacity to understand that he was taking a life. In that moment, I saw another man look at the back of another man and enjoy watching another man take his last breath. For me, it's not the joy that he found in seeing the man take his last breath. It's the fact that he did it with the man looking down. He did it looking at the back of his head. He got so lost in that moment that he exposed what he truly is inside. I mean, he can try and say that police procedure, and this and that cover what he did, but there is no procedure. There's nothing in any institution that can describe what George or Floyd went through and Derek Chauvin did to that individual, that human being, that man. You can say I shouldn't make it about black and white, but that's exactly what it was. A Caucasian white male that was a police officer, for whatever reason, took the life of a civilian black male. He did have legal reason to be interacting with him, but what kind of person, what kind of human being decides in a moment, in an instant, that, I'm so confused right now because I can't even say he was confused or decided. I don't. Derek Chauvin became so entranced in what he was doing that he lost control. And the other part is that he was semi-conscious enough to speak to the other police officers. Like, there's a lot of things going on through my head with this right now. It is definitely something to think about. Again, I want to definitely say that the defense attorney, you're doing a hell of a job. However, I don't think you can. Derek Chauvin's intentions is what I feel is on trial, and I don't believe that there's anything that you can say or do to show anything other than what his intentions were malice. I don't have any type of schooling that would give me the right to say that he fits into this mental category or that mental category. So that's not something I'm going to even say. What I will say is it's definitely not something I would want running loose out on the streets. Have a good night or day or whatever it is whenever you're watching this. Think about something.